Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are going to do a character guide on Noctis. I know I am a little bit late getting to this one. There have been requests for Noctis. He's one that I just kind of missed. He was on that triple BT banner, didn't even think about it. I think I was really busy that week. I finished recording all my current character guides, so I'm going to try to get Noctis out. I'll probably push him out maybe before Lulu or one of the newer characters, just because I know being a BT character in Noctis is very popular. A lot of people are going to want this guide, and there is a little bit, he's not necessarily the easiest character to play. You have to really understand him, so he does have a little bit of trickiness to his kit, so I do think it is worth getting this guide out, and hopefully a lot of you enjoy it and get some help out of it. The first thing I will say with Noctis is he does have a bonus weapon. He does have the mannequin weapon, which is this right here. The Twilight Princess Sword. The mannequin weapon does add brave damage to his skill 1 and skill 2, so it is worth getting. Once again, these are in Act 2, Chapter 5, and then you have to go to Chapter 5.8. That's what it says on Tonberry Troop. It's been like so long since I've done it. Just, if you guys are doing the story chapters, it's just naturally in there. So just look around for it. If somebody wants to post more specifically in the comments, you can do that. I'm just going off of what Tonberry Troop says, just because, like I said, it's been forever since I actually got these. But they are in the story. I believe you get one copy for free, and then you do have to use Power Stones to max it out. Make sure you do not get rid of any of those mannequin weapons. They are good. You want their passives, right? All right, so let's look at Noctis's artifacts and spheres first. So artifacts, you basically want Attack 108 and Will of the Prince boost 2-star. That's the C50. So once again, it's one of those standard C50s where you're getting Max Brave and Attack, which is really good. And then Max Brave 330, just the typical, right? Attack 108, Max Brave 330, C50. Those types of combinations are what you want. For the spheres, A spheres, being that he is a damage dealer, you want to go attack and brave damage. Something I always say though with A spheres is if a character can use an uncommon sphere, I like to unload the uncommon ones on that character. So like Noctis's own sphere and I believe Lael's sphere, those are like knockback spheres, which are launch spheres, and Noctis does have launch in his kit. So just giving him a launch sphere I think is fine. So I used his own on him because not a lot of characters can use it. And then you could use Lael for the other one. I just did a very generic one like Vaughn, which is just I have HP, I get attack. So something like that. Brave damage, attack, or one of the launch spheres that you want to use is fine. The E slot, once again, trying to get attack if possible or brave damage in some way. Yuffie's is one of the better ones because you get max brave and attack on it. So it's a very, very good one. I think Irvine is a good one because Noctis does do a lot of range damage. Noctis is interesting in that he has melee and range in his kit. So you have to be careful that if you're going into a fight that resists range or melee, that you want to make sure you're enchanting him in some way because he does have 2 typings, okay? And then Seymour and Emperor, I think those are 2 other E-spheres that do like attack that you could do. So you go ahead and decide on what you got there. All right, so let's hop into the showcase here. We're going to do some shenanigans here. Actually, I could run Shulk to really abuse this, but I won't. Let's just hop in. So Noctis is known for having one of those BT effects like Cloud of Darkness, where basically he's going to be doing a lot of follow-ups. So that's basically his BT effect. It does other buffs and stuff as well, but the main gimmick is that Noctis is going to be doing a lot of follow-ups, which is very useful, right? All right, so we're going to get Cissnei going. Between Cissnei and Noctis's range, I think this orb shouldn't be a problem at all. So I'm okay just actually throwing some calls and stuff on too, because Noctis does have range in his kit. Okay. The big gimmick with Noctis is that he has a buff called Warp Step that he gives to himself, but he can also give it to the party. And so if you've ever seen people do Lufenia runs or 0-turn runs, typically Noctis is a part of that, because basically what his LD does is it gives the party Warp Step, and while Warp Step is active, it doesn't count towards the turn count. And you can keep chaining Warp Steps together to stay in front of the enemies, basically. Because basically what Warp Step does is whatever enemy you target, you will jump to go right before they get to go. Alright, so let me go ahead and Garnet's going to do this. And then we're going to go ahead and throw this on. Yes. Alright. So then we're going to go ahead and show off Noctis. So Noctis has a lot going on in his kit. So he has a 15 and 35, which have a plus version. To get the plus version of those attacks, you can either use the attacks. If you use the non-plus version, it'll change to the plus version on the next turn. You can use his AA, which is Warp Step Advance, which will turn those into the plus versions. So there's a couple ways you can get to those. The plus versions are quite powerful, okay? So you can see we have Shooting Star, we have Warp Strike, we got Steel Pirouette, which is the LD, and then we have Set Warp Advance, right? So I do kind of want to show you stuff outside of Burst Phase to kind of show how he's working, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to target enemy B, and I'm going to use Steel Pirouette, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Alright. So what happens now is the entire party has a buff called Warp Step. So if I go to Garnet, you'll see Warp Step is on here. It's a 2-turn buff. So basically, while you have Warp Step active, you will warp before that enemy's turn, depending on which one you target. So if I keep targeting B, I'm going to keep going in front of B's turn. So I'm going to try to do that for now. The other thing I'm going to do is, so sure, let's use Shooting Star. So Shooting Star is the AoE attack. And you see it doesn't really do anything, but then when you get the plus version, that's what I was looking for, was a break. Because now they have the break, now I can get Garnet going. And Garnet can stay in front of enemy B. Here's the other thing I'll show you. Let's say I attack enemy A, because Noctis still has Warp Step on, right? Yep, he's got 1 turn of Warp Step. So let's say Noctis attacks enemy A. He's actually going to go before enemy A, not enemy B. So let's go ahead and, now that I've Shooting Star Plus, I won't do that yet, but let me just do regular Warp Strike, which is single target. Okay? Yep, we'll do that. Now you see Noctis, he warped in front of enemy A. So the main thing you have to understand is you have to know who has Warp Step on, and you have to pay attention to which enemy you're attacking, right? So now Garnet, if Garnet attacks enemy B, she's going to stay in front of enemy B for 2 turns. And while Warp Step is active, it's not adding to the turn count, right? So I could go ahead and say use the LD here. And then she's just going to warp and stay in front of enemy B. Okay, so now see, she's still in front. And then we can go in here and we can see she still has a turn of Warp Step. So I could warp in front of B again and do another attack. So sure, let's go ahead and actually I'm going to... Yeah, let's just go ahead and do an Aquamarine. So she's going to stay up front. Okay. So you can definitely do shenanigans here with the turn manipulation with Noctis. That's very, very helpful, right? So that's one thing you want to think about. Okay, let me just check here one more time. All right, so now Garnet doesn't have the Warp Step up. So now it doesn't matter who she's going to attack. This is essentially a normal turn. So let's just do a normal turn. But now Cissnei still has the Warp Step on. So when she goes, she can still stay in front of the enemies for a couple turns if she wants to. Okay. So let's go. Yeah, actually, I'm not even going to get the show. I'm going to have to use Noctis's Burst here. But here's what I'll do. I'll jump in front of A. So let's go ahead and, sure, let's just do a normal attack here. And you're going to notice she's going to jump in front of A because she's on Warp Step right now. See that? And now Noctis is up. And what I'm going to do with Noctis, so we've kind of understand the Warp Step aspect of it now, right? So let's go ahead and go into Burst Phase. And I'm hoping that Noctis doesn't, like, kill them here. But with the follow-ups from Cissnei, it might. So now I'm just in, like, normal Burst Phase, right? So let's go ahead and let's just do Steel Pirouette, which is nice because during the Burst Phase now, this is refreshing the buff on all your allies. So now they have Warp Step for 2 more turns. So you can really, like, Noctis is really good at staying in front of the enemy. Noctis is actually really good on the current Lufenia Plus. So I'm talking about Shulk and Lulu's Lufenia Plus, the one that's currently up as I'm recording this. Because you can stay in front of the enemies with Noctis, and that's kind of what they want you to do in that fight, right? Let's go ahead and do the EX. We haven't used that one yet. So the EX, it just gives him an Armiger buff, but it does put point blank warp on the enemies, which is a debuff. The 15 and 35 also put that on. So basically, like, if the enemies have point blank warp on, if you're doing the plus versions of your abilities, he should do a follow-up after, right? So Shooting Star, the plus version here, we can show that too. That's what launches. So if we do Shooting Star Plus, it will do a launch, and there's the free follow-up that we get from the enemies having the debuff, and then we got the launch. Okay? And then when you're using the plus versions, so like, if you're using the plus version of the 15 and 35, if you don't have Warp Step on, they essentially give you Warp Step for that attack. So you will warp in front if you are doing the plus versions of those attacks. Once again, I'm in Burst Phase, so that kind of gets thrown out the window. But you can see he does pretty good damage with all the follow-ups that he's getting from the enemies having that debuff on, which is very good, right? Okay. And then once again, if you don't have the plus versions, you can just pop the AA and you will get the plus versions of those abilities if you want them. So like right now, if I wanted the plus version of Shooting Star, I could just pop that. But I'm in burst phase, so let's just do regular Shooting Star. It's going to go to the plus version for when I come out of burst phase, right? So we'll do that. And then we are going to just hope that the enemies survive this. I don't remember if his was a single target or an AoE, but I'm going to attack the weaker one. This might just be single target, so we might be okay. Yeah, I think it's only going to be single target. I don't know if it splashes or not. Nope, it doesn't. All right, so we're good. So we got the burst attack, and actually they both survived, which is fine. Okay, so now Noctis has his burst effect up. Now, it's only a 3-turn effect, right? It's very short. But that's because I don't have him greened. I think if you green him, he definitely adds some turns onto that. I can actually double check that right now. I'm looking at his stuff. Let me just check really quick. Yeah, so if you green him, it's going to be 6 turns, which is a lot better, right? I can work with 3. So basically what's going to happen now is after every character attack, he's going to follow up. So you'll see I'll just attack here with Cisne. And then she's got to do her follow-ups too. But then he's going to do an additional. So then once again, if you combo him with other turn hoggers that stay in front of him, you can really get a lot out of that. Which is why Noctis for a long time was a very popular friend unit. Very similar to how Clouded Darkness was a very popular friend unit. If you have a green one that can come in and pop the burst attack, then you're, getting all the free follow-ups from that, right? So that's basically it with Noctis. It's just understanding when you have the plus versions of those abilities, they are a lot more powerful. Shooting Star launches, they're going to warp. Using the LD effect to give the whole party warp, and just understanding how you're warping to stay in front of the enemies and paying attention to those buffs. So Noctis in the right fights, if you are doing a fight where you can no-turn the enemies and you're not punished for not letting them take a turn, like you can really abuse Noctis to do that, right? So anyways, I hope this helps. If there's anything I left out that you guys have questions about with Noctis, please let me know. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one.